Let's continue on now in this coming of Elijah. But what is the coming of Elijah? The coming of Elijah is the Spirit of God moving upon his people, the few, the remnant that will hear his voice, hear the voice of that one crying out in the wilderness. The coming of Elijah is the Spirit of God falling upon his people who will hear, who will see, who will listen, to repent and prepare the way of the Lord. That's what the coming of Elijah is. That's what the spirit of the coming of Elijah is. Because John the Baptist said he was not Elijah, but the Lord said he was. Because John was speaking as a man. I'm not Elijah. Elijah lived a long time ago. He was speaking as a man. I'm not Elijah. But the Lord was speaking of the Spirit. For the Spirit of Elijah was upon John and doing that work to prepare his way. And now that we're in the end times, that's what the Spirit of Elijah is now. The Spirit of God to fall upon those that will respond, that will listen, that will see, and that will walk with God. And now going on. The next thing we see in the coming of Elijah is resurrection life. Because Elijah's been with this woman, and God has miraculously provided again for him and her this bread, this flour, this oil, this water is there. And now we come to 1 Kings 17, going to the end of the chapter, we're going to see this resurrection life. Because this woman's child has become sick. Now it came about after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became sick. And his sickness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. And that is the condition of much of the church, much of God's people. There's no life left in them. They're just going about. They're slaves in Babylon. They have no life in them. And so then we see, so she said to Elijah, what do I have to do with you, O man of God? You have come to bring my iniquity to remembrance and to put my son to death. So what has she got? She's got this remembrance of her iniquity. That's where resurrection life comes from. That we know we've fallen short. So many people try to say, oh, I don't sin, I'm not a sinner. John said that if you say you have no sin, the truth isn't in you. The moving of the Spirit of Elijah is bringing this life. But first, it brings you to know your condition. And this death is here, and she's remembering her iniquity. In verse 19, and he said to her, give me your son. Then he took him from her bosom and carried him to the upper room where he was living, and laid him on his bed. And he called to the Lord and said, O Lord my God, hast thou also brought calamity to the widow with whom I am staying by causing her son to die? God will let us fall into this despair until we need him, call upon him, depend upon that moving of his Spirit. Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, the number of resurrection, 3 times, and called to the Lord and said, O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's life return to him. That's the coming of the Spirit of Elijah. That's what we're to do. That's what I'm wanting to see in me and my wife and us and you. This resurrection life, this calling out to the Lord to bring this life. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah. And the life of the child returned to him, and he revived. That's what the Spirit of Elijah, to bring this life to this death, to this dead child, to this place we have no life. That's the coming of Elijah, to bring life, resurrection life. Verse 23, and Elijah took the child and brought him down from the upper room into the house and gave him to his mother. And Elijah said, see, your son is alive. See, life. The Spirit of Elijah brings resurrection life out of this death. That's where resurrection life comes from the cross. At the cross is death. That's why she remembered her sins at the cross. We come to the cross. We know that we're sinners. We've fallen short. And starting there, we call out to God. God hears, and the spirit of Elijah falls upon us, and we have this resurrection life. See, your son is alive. Verse 24, then the woman said to Elijah, now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in your mouth, and it is truth. That is what we need to know, the truth, our condition, this death, and to call to the Lord and see this resurrection life through this spirit of Elijah.